Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you too.
Yeah, I'm so sorry we are starting now, and sorry about my lighting and everything. I have a lot of technical difficulties to deal with, but well, the most important is we get the message across.
Yeah, that's the most important. We are all into this mess together. That's why we keep looking for solutions at all time
Yeah.
because the issue has become something which is difficult to manage. The whole country is all the time in darkness, but we have one of the biggest barrage dams and everything. What do we do with that? So, really,
Okay.
thank you for this program.
Yeah. So I just want to give a brief introduction and rundown before we start. And you are my guest for today, and this is the second episode of like a podcast I started, which is titled the Reforming Cameroon podcast. And I actually had this idea due to the upcoming elections that is coming up. And my vision, my idea was to like talk to different political actors and leaders in Cameroon to share their vision of what a transform and a reform Cameroon can be, because I know it's election time, and I understand a lot of people are looking to a vision to buy into, because we understand how the country is now. People are perplexed, people are confused, some are angry about the state of Cameroon, and we know things are not going well. So we met at the sidelines of the FES program, and we talked about this, and I'm really glad to be having you. So that's just a background. And through this program, I really want to encourage others to really like get their card, and so that they can fulfill their civic duties when the time comes. Yeah. So I just want to pass the floor now to you to introduce yourself and what you do and just everything about you. You can go ahead. It's on record, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my brother Destiny, for having me on your program today. I think it's a wonderful one. I am Kohtem Prince with Sambit, a patriot, not to say militant, because at the level of the MP3 is a patriot. A patriot of the movement for patriotism and people's prosperity. It's a youth-led political party that was created in 2018 and legalized in 2023 in Cameroon. The MP3 party is a party led by young people that most of us were members of a certain movement in the 2018 presidential election. And thereafter, after the elections, the candidate which we were supporting was from the civil society, was not really politically inclined, somebody affiliated to a political party. So after that, he had to leave the political space. And most of us, with burning spirit, burning ambitions to see the change in our country, we could not just remain behind. We felt like, yes, it is our generation, it is our time. We needed to take the bull by the horn. And so nobody is going to do that for us. So we did not want to go back to the quarters and stay like the other people did, but we keep pushing for this change. So that is how we put our ideas together, those burning ideas that we have, very brilliant ideas to see Cameroon change. And we had to come together, put it together, and then in a document that is being under the canopy of a political entity that is known as the Movement for Patriotism and People's Prosperity, with an ideology that actually is what is pulling the wave in Africa today, which is known as Afro-social liberalism, not to say Pan-Africanism, but it is a way of integrating our African culture into the governance system as it used to be, as how what suits the African environment, political, economic, social, from every angle. So we came up with this idea, and therefore we founded the MP3. I am the Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Pan African Integration of the Movement for Patriotism and People's Prosperity. And we have a permanent secretariat that is at the helm of the MP3, unlike other parties that do have a president.
Yeah.
Yeah, can imagine. I understand.
Yeah.
That is that we are talking about, and
The-
this is why we need it. This is why this this podcast is important for us. You
I'm
know.
telling you, I'm telling you. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. I've been trying to change the network settings and all that, but let's see how it goes though. I hope we run
Yeah, it's not
smoothly
your
because
fault.
I really want us to get this thing. Well,
Yeah.
just continue from when you started, from where you started.
Oh, from where I stopped to where I
Yeah,
started.
where you stop. Sorry, so when you stop.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, like I was saying, the MP3 is not about an individual, but it's about an ideology, how we could change Cameroon. Like I was saying, the Cameroon of 1990 is not the Cameroon of today. The Cameroon of 2000 is not the Cameroon of today. We're in 2025, and the world is pushing changing so fast. At the point in time, we're talking about Android generation. Today, we're talking about artificial intelligence. So, if we are constructing Cameroon, we must construct Cameroon the same way as the world is evolving. Cameroon is not an isolated place. True, we have our particularity, but we fit in a global context. That is why the MP3 is out, to be able to stream Cameroon, to be able to push Cameroon forward, not just pushing forward with a blind program or a vague program, but with a program that is specific and ideal to the Cameroonian problem. So the MP3, the Movement for Patriotism, is headed by a young person, less than 40. Like I said, we have an executive secretariat, and it's being headed by an executive secretary. And this executive secretary, he is called Samuel Yiram Iyodi, a young man with a fine brain, with a track record in leadership and political activity. So most of us and many of us, like every one of us, at the level of the MP3, we're at the level of the permanent secretariat or at the level of the party as a whole, we are engaged young people who want to see Cameroon move forward. And we are calling on all Cameroonians to be able to join, because this is the clear part. The MP3, in its memorandum, we have outlined clearly the ways, the procedures, and how we can push Cameroon forward in reacting to the Cameroonian ecosystem, whether political, economic, or social. Like we say, we've been able to react to this, and we've been able to put these points, or the problems, to resolve this problem under what is known, our political program, which is known as the Continent Rise Up. In English, in French, is known as Le Continent Debout. 12 key points to unleash the true potentials of Cameroon. And these 12 key points, I will tell you, my brother, it tackles the problem. Because if you look at these 12 key points, the first key point talks about no more waste of the Cameroonian taxpayers' currency. How do we mean that? We mean that if you look at the Cameroonian atmosphere today, you understand that most of the problems that are coming, first, it rises up from corruption. And how does this corruption actually manifest itself in Cameroon? It begins first with the government. Yes, I'll be very open to say that. The government and the structuring of the government. You know, we have a government that is made of, I think, if not 63, 64 government ministries. How do you explain that you have a population of 30 million and plus approximately? Yes, because for the last 20 years, we know Cameroon has not been able to do a population census. So we were still at 27 million 20 years ago, and today we don't still have exact figures. But saying that after 20 years, at least the population must have increased. And if we want to take approximately maybe 10 million or 5 million, then we should be about 33 million or 34 million. 34 million people for a 63-man government. How does that reason to any Cameroonian? Knowing very well that these government ministries they need to function. And how do they function? They function with the taxpayers' money. Imagine a minister, one minister having mission allowances, petrol bombs, having a house allowance, and all the other allowances that you want to put. That is for the minister and not the ministry. Now, look at the ministry. You need running budget for that ministry. Now, at the tail end, we realize that Cameroon is turning around the same place, wasting taxpayers' money for running ministries that don't actually pull the job that they are supposed to do. Take an example of the Ministry of Decentralization. or if you like, the Ministry of Urban Development. How do this ministry, what is their job? But they have a functioning budget. You see our towns very dirty. It has become now a laughing stock where people take on social media to take pictures in trash can. Literally, all our towns have become trash or bins. And now it's becoming fun. Why? Because, oh, leaving aside even the trash, talking about town planning itself. How are our towns being planned? Look at the nature of the roads of even the capital city of Cameroon, Yaoundé. Look at the nature of the roads linking the capital city and the economic capital, Douala. Looking at the road linking other economic cities like Bafoussam, Extreme North. Today we have other international partners that were with us and that are pulling out because of the nature of our road, because of the nature of our tax system. Chad, for example, is signing a deal with another African country where now they'll not be able, they want to transfer or transport their petrol and other products because it's a landlocked country, which they used to do through Cameroon, but they want to go to another country. Why? Because of all these things that these ministries are supposed to do that they are not doing, but they keep running with a functional budget, which is from the taxpayers' money. And how does this actually promote corruption? These ministers don't actually take their full competencies because those ministerial positions are not there to be able to serve the Cameroonian people. They are there to serve the power in place, the ruling party. Because the ruling party has used and is using ministerial positions as bargaining or as, how do I put it? They use it to compensate the party militants, those people who actually support them. So you support me, the ruling party, I give you a ministerial position, I create a ministerial position, and you're there. How do you explain that we have a Ministry of Women Affairs, we have a Ministry of Social Affairs, we have a Ministry of Youth Affairs, we have a Ministry of Sports? Before now, it used to be under one ministry, the Ministry of Sport and Physical Education, or Youth Affairs and Physical Education. It was running. But what happened at the point in time, we had to open all these or create new ministries, divide them, subdivide. I will take an example, a simple example, Uganda. Uganda has a population of about 48 million or 40 million, and they have, I think, it's a 23-man government. How do you explain that a country with such population and larger than Cameroon in large space has that type of a well-structured and well-directed government rather than Cameroon with a smaller population? It goes away to explain how corruption manifests itself in Cameroon, and the taxpayers' money is being used to compensate partisan politics.
Okay, just to interject there for a bit, not to stop you, because I'm trying to listen to your point, and you are it's like you stand for the Republican idea of limited government. Now, I want to find out. Yeah, I want to find out about. I want to find out your idea of what can be done to make government in Cameroon more efficient, to target a government that will be able to meet the social and political and economic needs of its people. What's your idea of what an efficient government of Cameroon could be like?
Yeah. It begins with Cameroonians, patriotism. Now, talking about what type of government, the MP3 political party seeks to have a government that will serve the people. And serving the people means, in the first place, not being partisan, but being patriotic. Because being partisan is different from being patriotic. When you're partisan, you behave like the present regime that we have in Cameroon. You are not serving the population, but you are serving a particular political party for the party's interest, which therefore means that if you succeed to convince people around your community through bribery and corruption, through the preaching of hate speech today, division, divide and rule, then you don't need to be able to implement your policies, but you just need to keep going because the power remains in place. But the MP3 wants to do it different, because the MP3 has at its heart of its political program the Cameroonian people. And how do we actually want to do this? We have outlined it, like I said, through our 12 key points. And the first of the 12 key points is to reduce the number the government positions or number of government minister or positions. The second is to have a state that represents us and brings us together, which means that we will want a state or a government which will be able to reunite Cameroonians from their different diversities, whether ethnic diversities, cultural diversities, from the different angles of the country, the north, the east, the west, and the south. And this will be able to go a long way to resolve the problem, the crisis problem that we're having in Cameroon today. Like the Northwest, the problem in the Northwest and Southwest has been running for 9 years today, and nothing is being done about it, or almost nothing. The problem is the extreme north, the security problem, the problem in the east region of Cameroon, and most importantly, the problem of division, hate speech that has been propagated, that is being propagated every day in the country. And how will we do this? We'll be bringing up a consensus on the form of the states through what is known as adopting the conference resolution by the people. We want to organize what is known as a sovereign national congress, where the Cameroonian people will be able to come together and decide, for example, what type of form of state do we have? What type of we'll talk about form of state. We're looking at the different conglomerate. Do we need a federal state, a two-state federation, or a 10-state federation that suits us as per our different ethnic and cultural backgrounds? We also talk about the family at the heart of the nation, as how MP3 wants to take Cameroon forward. Talking about the family at the heart of the nation, we're looking at providing parents with financial allowance at every birth, which means parents in Cameroon will not be able to, or will not need to pay any dime, for example, a woman who wants to put to bed. And at a time within the space where the woman will put to bed for maybe 1 to 2 years, you'll be able to receive allowances from the government. And that is not impossible. Why? Because Cameroon has a lot of resources that are being mismanaged. For example, if you cut the government to the expenses, you realize that if you remove from 63 to 23 or 24 government positions, we'll have a chunk. MP3 has done all that calculation. We have a chunk roughly about 2,000 or 1,700 to 2,000 billion. I mean billion, not million, billion of our state budget that is being wasted today in the running of those ministries. We'll have that money they can be able to use to arrive at this. Because when we tell people that a woman putting to bed will not need to pay maternity fees and other things, I will have allowance. Actually, how are you going to do that? We don't have money today. No, Cameroon has the money. The problem is that it's been mismanaged. And going forward, we'll have covering of schools that will provide jobs, and not schools that will instead produce job seekers, but that will instead provide job creators. How are we going to do that? We're going to establish a single bilingual system, which French and English will not be an option, whether you choose, but it will be compulsory for everyone. I will tell you, it is very, very possible to have that. Why? Because today, the system where we find ourselves today is a system that was built on corruption, and corruption is going on. So there is no impossibility if we want to bring an educational system where we'll be able to reform it, where it will be creating people that will be able to create jobs, and people will be seeking jobs. And how do we do that? We want to begin with changing the academic calendar year.
Okay.
Excuse me. Changing the academic calendar here. Wherefore, we will not have the big holidays between July and August, September anymore, but we're going to have them from November, December, January. How does that suit us? Because the present academic calendar that we have in Cameroon today was not made for us. It was made by our colonial masters that suit their own programs. Remember, between July, August, and September is a time where it is fresh in Europe. And these people created this period as a time for big holidays where they could travel back to their countries and enjoy the holidays. They did not do it for us.
That's new. I'm just learning that today.
Yes, it did not suit us. What suits us is the fact that, imagine, during the dry seasons, Cameroonian students will be able to do a lot of things. For example, during these big holidays that we want to put November, December, January, it's a time where we can be able to freely visit our different regions, know our cultural backgrounds, which will reinforce our living together. It's a time where young people may be able to do voluntary work for the states, because we are going to institute that. Like in other countries, young people, you have to do what is known as a voluntary service for your state. You don't just go to school and go to school. No. You go to school and you be put under a scheme at a point in time to be able to do voluntary. This voluntary service will also permit you to move and know your country, because you may not always serve in the region of origin. It permits you to maybe serve in the extreme north or in the east region, which maybe in ordinary time we may not be able to do.
Okay.
This same program will permit us to improve other sectors of the country. For example, tourism. Excuse me. The tourism sector in most countries is what produces a whole lot of whole lot of money for the states. We talk about Cameroon being Africa in miniature, Africa in miniature. Yes, because we have everything that it takes to attract tourists from every part of the world. I don't want to cite, we have this touristic site. Do you know where we call the Kohtem waterfall? I don't think maybe you know it. No. It's in the Mongo. How people know it? But when I visited it, I tell you, that is something where if it is being brought to the light of Cameroonians in a better way, we'll have people living from other African countries to come visit us. Just to maybe not to remain on that same point, because education itself is a whole lot of issues about. Today we have doctors, people who say they are PhD holders. Imagine, I don't know how crazy that is, but it's as crazy as what Cameroon is going on today. There are people who say are PhD holders, that in other countries are those that are producing atomic bombs to be able to protect their nation, that those that are producing nuclear weapons to protect their nation. I'm not saying that is a priority, but yes, we need it. We need it for our own protection. That's what makes a country strong enough to bargain. We have, in other countries, you have PhD holders are the one that developing ideas and the thinkers, how we can come up, for example, to have our own independent currency. Today, Biak is just turning around, giving us today, change one coin to another, print another paper and giving us. What are we doing? Our PhD, those who have PhD are sleeping in front of the ministry asking for a job. So who should create the job? We see that our educational system has failed us, and we need to reform it. And the MP3, like I just give you an example, we will reform it through these directions. First is changing the academic calendar. Then in the reformation, we bring a new syllabus. How often do they tell us about our own true history of Cameroon? How much do we know about our nationalist movement? Because if you don't, even those patriots, you may not be able to move forward. That's why Cameroon is where it is today. Now, we move forward to look at equal justice for all. The Cameroon of today is deeply sick with lack of the respect of the rule of law. I'll take you a simple example, how corruption has eaten with the non-respect of the rule of law, or the non-respect of the rule of law, how it has promoted corruption. Mm-hmm. Article 66 of the Cameroon Constitution states that every elected member, from the President of the Republic, elect members that hold elected positions, right up to directors and other people, need to declare their income. Who has declared it today? Nobody. What are we doing? When you ask some of these people, they will tell you that they are waiting for a law of implementation. So they can have a law of implementation asking Cameroonians to declare their personal income tax, but they cannot have a law of implementation asking them to declare their own personal income tax. It gives a laissez-faire for everybody to be able to embezzle. That is why you see today, MP3 has had the respect of the rule of law. We'll talk about equal justice for all. And how are we going to ensure this? First is that we want to remove the presidency of the Republic and the Minister of Justice from the higher judicial council. Because when you have the presidency of the Republic and the Minister of Justice in the higher judicial council, you realize that that issue of separation of power that most of us studied in school, that most countries are implementing, that is being able to work as the checks and balances of the machine, the running the state machine, is not there. Sure. Because if the president can influence the president of the Supreme Court, the president of the Constitutional Council, the president of Even the president of the National Assembly, the president of the Senate, the president of the Republic alone is influencing all these people from the different. We talk about the different arms of the state: judicial, executive, legislative, which are supposed to work differently. However, that to cooperate, but they need to serve as checks and balances. Instead, in Cameroon, we are seeing them as husband and wife. Everybody just accepting everybody. Nobody is being able to carry its own work. But if you remove the presidency from that higher judicial council, you realize that with a liberal hand that the president of the Supreme Court will have, the president of the Constitutional Council, and other institutions, we may be able to have these checks and balances, and the intrusion of the executive power in the legislative affairs or the judicial affairs will not be there anymore. And we also want to guarantee access to a lawyer for every citizen in Cameroon. Is possible. And how would that begin? We want to create a law school in Cameroon. Look at how Cameroon is after 60 years of independence and plus. We don't have a law school. You depend on the government will stay after maybe 1 or 2 years, 3. Sometimes it was even 10 years. And come and tell you that we have launched a concours, this issue of concours, well, the English word is competitive exams. No, we need to have a school that train lawyers. If we're talking about the rule of law, and the MP3 want to put that in place. Okay. And still looking at equal justice for all. The MP3 is looking at reforming our prisons, our prison systems. I will tell you the 12 keys to unleash the true potential of Cameroon, the continent rise up, came out. We had it out before. I want to say it again. I want to say it. Before even what the Burkina Faso president is implementing today in Burkina, where the prison reforms, where prisoners don't longer need to stay in prisons, but they need to work to be able to increase or contribute to the development of the country and the economy. That is what the MP3 wants to do. I will tell you that I will still want to repeat that the MP3 had already made provisions for it even before it was declared in Burkina Faso. And this is going to help us a lot. Some few days ago, I heard a particular TV station talking about one former minister in Cameroon that had embezzled or mismanaged more than 120 billion, one person. And that is just what there is more than that. Yeah, I didn't want to call names, but there are more than that. We have more than 100 individuals in Cameroon that have that type of money that have embezzled. And you take them and put them in prison. How does it help the ordinary Cameroonian like me? The money is still in their account. Some of them that are in prison, we hear they have given the amnesty and immediately they run out of Cameroon with the money. Do you want to call the former minister of water and energy? Where is he today? The former minister of finance, where are they today? They are in love with the Cameroonian money. And we say, and the others, we send them to prison and the money still remains with them. How does this help the ordinary Cameroonian people? That's why we want to institute this prison reform policy. The next thing MP3 wants to look at is the end of power shortage. What you and I are facing today, what every Cameroonian is facing today.
The energy sector.
From Douala to Boya, to Limbe, to Bamenda, to Ndop, to Furawa, to Garua, Marua. All those places, all of us are going through the same thing, of which we have all the dams, Memvele, Mekim. It's crazy to even pronounce all of that, and we still have power shortage on daily basis. Why? Because of poor management, and even those dams that we have, we don't know how to put them in use. The present regime does not know how to put them in use. But how is the MP3 going to do this? The MP3 has put in a strategy. We are going to generate electricity based on the different localities and their potentials. Take an example, Ndop, or Northwest region as a whole. We have the different dams that are there. We have the different mountains that we can, for example, when I wanted to call Ndop, I was going to say the people around Ngokutunja or Tuba Ngokutunja, we can use the Sabgahi to generate electricity through solar panels because of its potentiality. We go to another area, for example, in the southwest, we can use, and that electricity that we generate in maybe at the Sabgahi can light the whole of maybe in Ngokutunja without any problem. That's you tackle the problems as per their different sectors. If you go to the extreme north and you see that they are more favorable with sun, want a lot of solar panels that can run the individual and the particular cities.
Okay.
And then these big dams, we will use them now to solve the problem of the major cities like Yaoundé, Douala,
Okay.
and also address these big industries that need a lot of electricity. Well, that's where we will focus with these big dams that are producing a lot of electricity. But each locality or circumscription will have to generate its electricity depending on its own potentials. There are places where we can use wind turbines to generate electricity because that is their own potential. We don't need to take. Look, it's so crazy that this present regime, I don't know how they are thinking, but they want to use the same solution to solve all problems. No.
Okay. Okay. Let me just
Different.
let me
The
just come in
problems
there.
are different,
Let
and
me,
each community will have its own solution as per it. Yes, come on, my brother.
let me just cut in there for a while. We have about let me say roughly 8 minutes to go, and you're actually giving quite a lot of points. And I hope we are going to have some time in future, like to continue further from where we are now. But I am really interested in the economy of Cameroon.
Yes.
Because I understand the economy of every nation constitutes the backbone of that nation. Once people are not financially upright, once the economy is collapsing, once the economy is not fine, we have a state which is in the possibility to fail, which is going to increase
Yeah.
citizen disgruntlement. I want to find out, just give me like
Yeah.
a rundown of in 3 minutes. What is your economic plan for Cameroon? Cameroon GDP right now is about $49 billion GDP, I think so.
Yeah.
What is your plan? What is your economic plan for Cameroon? Just give me like in under 3 minutes before we run out.
Yeah. Look, it is simple. To move the economy forward, you need to have your currency. That is the first problem. Cameroon cannot develop without having its own currency. Today, Senegal is talking about pulling out from the ECOWAS. Other countries are doing. The Alliance of East African States, they have their own currency they are pushing forward. That's why you see they are beginning to develop. United States is the world power, governing power today because it has its own currency. Other countries have their own currency. Why does Cameroon does not? Why does Cameroon?
Do,
Why don't we have our own currency?
do
That's
you
why
think?
to begin for the economy, MP3 like yesterday,
Mhm.
MP3 came out with a communique sanctioning the printing of the new currency and coins that have been put out by BIAC. No, we don't want. We want to pull out of the CFA. And
Mm.
when we pull out of the CFA, when we talk about pulling out, people should not be confused. Pulling out is a process.
Mhm.
And pulling out this way means that we can be able to have our single currency still under the CEMAC zone. Why we still using the CFA, which means Cameroon can have its currency and we accept the CFA from even from different CEMAC countries. It's not a problem, but we need to have our own currency to be able to boost our economy. And if we have our own currency, now the next thing we need to do to that economy is to touch our academic, our educational system, because the economy is from the personnel that you train. How does the school educational system adapt to it, to job creation? How does it create what atmosphere, what ecosystem does it give out to create jobs? How does it promote investment? And talking about promotion of investment, we are looking at where a Cameroon where our raw materials is our strength. That is the ninth key point of the 12 of the MP3.
Okay.
Cameroon has a lot of potentials. For example, agricultural potentials. How do we use these potentials? But to be able to tackle these agricultural potentials to boost our economy, to grow our economy, MP3 wants to first of all fix the problem of land ownership. Because land ownership is what we're going to push us to be able to take full control of our true potentials. You cannot improve. You cannot improve the economy or encourage agriculture, which we seek as our backbone, the economic backbone of Cameroon under MP3, without resolving the problem of land ownership. We want to abolish the Ministry of Land Tenure and land ownership as per our ideology, Afro-social liberalism. Land does not belong to an individual. Land, as per the African customs, belongs to a community. that we are just passerby. When you are there, you use it and you use it well for the next generation. And we have our elite class of the African cultural institutions that are in charge of, excuse me, of having ownership of these lands, and they'll be the ones to take control of it. When we resolve this problem, now we'll pass to that issue of improving our agricultural system. We seek to invest more in the agricultural sector. But investing in the agricultural sector, we have to tackle the problem of transport network. Because if you don't have a good transport network, no matter how you invest in the agricultural sector, you might not be able to see the result. For example, farm to market roads. For example, moving goods from, yes, like I said, from the farms to sorry.
Okay.
So, for example, moving the goods from the farm to the market, the personnel, you need good transport network to be able to do that. So, in a nutshell, to boost the economy of Cameroon, to boost GDP, we have a couple of problems that are interconnected to tangle with first before we can be able to move forward. First, to begin, like I said, the currency. After the currency, we resolve the issue of land dispute. Land dispute, we looked at our educational system. For our educational system, then we look at our transport network. It is when we tackle some of these problems that we'll be able to both talk about the growth of our GDP, of our economy, without which we'll be starting on the same place. But this can only happen. It can only happen where the Cameroonian people decide with their own will through going to register at the electoral register to vote.
That's
Like I
that's
usually say, if Cameroon has a voter, we have um, uh, 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 an amount of more than 16 million Cameroonians that are eligible to vote. And if today we still have about 8 million, we are dancing between 7 to 8 million registered voters. What are we saying? And people keep complaining that no, the ruling government is still rigging election, election is not working. No, I'll tell you no.
please.
The ruling government has been there for,
Just to
for
interject.
40.
Yeah, we have about 2 more minutes to go. 1 more minute. Just give a closing remark, 30 seconds. We are going to continue this program. We are going to have another episode where I'm going to host you to share more, maybe three of you again. But just give a closing remark in 30 seconds, and let's close for now.
Now, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us this platform. It's a wonderful one. We encourage a lot of Cameroonians to be able to take advantage of such platform for us to be able to spread the message so far so that every Cameroonian can be aware of what is at stake to us. 40 years in bondage, risks continuing if we don't take our destiny into our own hands. So it is of every Cameroonian to look at a political party that has a program and not because of the person in front. We're not talking about people here. We should talk about programs that carry us ahead and not people that will look at no. It should be about somebody. That's why we, of the MP3, we are calling on Cameroonians to be able to adhere to the MP3, look at the political program of the MP3, and see how we can move forward from there. Because this is a program that matches the true or brings a solution to the problems of the problems that Cameroon has today. But this begins with you, this begins with me, this begins with each and every one of us as Cameroonian. But it starts by going to register at the electoral register.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for your time, Mr. Kohtem. I hope we are going to have more time to host this. And just to conclude, this program is meant to encourage people to go register and vote. And we hope that we have maximum engagement ahead of these elections. So thank you, Mr. Kohtem, for your time and for all your insights. I'm hoping to host you next time. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're hoping next time.
Right. Bye-bye, man.